18% of all prison murders in America committed by just 1% of inmates. One gang, one prison, one empire built on blood. Corcoran State Prison, California, where America's deadliest criminal organization doesn't just survive behind bars, it thrives. But here's what should be impossible. The men running this operation, they're locked in solitary confinement. 23 hours a day. No contact, no communication. So how do they control murder across the entire nation? To understand Corcoran, we have to go back. Way back. 1964, San Quentin State Prison, California. The federal government orders prison desegregation. Black inmates, white inmates, Hispanic inmates, all forced together for the first time. And the prisons erupt. The black guerrilla family forms. They're organized, they're violent. And white inmates, they're outnumbered. So a group of Irish bikers bands together. Protection, survival, safety in numbers. They call themselves the Aryan Brotherhood. At first, it's defense, just watching each other's backs, staying alive. But something shifts. By the 1970s, protection isn't enough. They want power. By the 1980s, they want profit. By the 1990s, they've become the oldest, largest, and deadliest prison gang in the entire United States. The ideology, the racial hatred that sparked their creation becomes secondary. A tool, a recruiting pitch. What matters now is business. Drug trafficking, extortion, contract killings, and the blood never stops. Hey everyone, real quick before we continue. Where are you watching from? What time is it for you right now? What true crime story do you want me to cover next? It could be a cold case, a prison gang, a heist gone wrong, a serial killer, corrupt cops, literally anything that keeps you up at night. Here's the deal. The story that gets the most requests, that's becoming the very next video. No joke. You pick it, I research it, we all get obsessed together. So don't be shy, comment below and let's see what darkness we're diving into next. Your idea could be on this channel in the next few weeks. Alright, back to Corcoran. The Aryan Brotherhood doesn't stay a prison gang for long. By the 1980s, they've evolved into something far more dangerous, a criminal corporation. They establish what they call the Federal Commission, a leadership structure. Barry Mills and Tyler Bingham, two names that will haunt the American prison tracks for killings. And if anyone steps out of line, they don't get a warning. Then, Corcoran State Prison becomes the stronghold, the headquarters of their blood-soaked empire. Why Corcoran? Maximum security, veteran gang members concentrated in one place, and opportunities, corrupt opportunities, that shouldn't exist but do. The leaders get isolated in the security housing unit, the SHU, solitary confinement, but isolation doesn't mean powerless. Guards arrange gladiator-style fights in the yards. Inmates settle scores while correctional officers place bets. The violence isn't just tolerated, it's encouraged. The drug empire doesn't stop at the prison walls. Paroled members carry the operation into the streets. Money flows in. Orders flow out. Race wars erupt regularly. Guards get stabbed. Rival gangs get eliminated. And the Aryan Brotherhood, they control it all. Absolute territorial dominance. Corcoran becomes more than a prison. It becomes a fortress, a command center, a killing floor. 1982, Todd Ashker enters the California prison system. He's 19 years old. A burglary conviction. 5-year sentence. Should have been simple time. But prison has a way of changing people. Or maybe it just reveals who they really were all along. 5 years pass. Then 1987 arrives. New Folsom State Prison. What happens next will define the rest of Ashker's life. He stabs another Aryan Brotherhood member. Not once, not twice, 17 times. Some accounts say over 50. A homemade shank, sharpened, deadly. While Ashker attacks, another inmate blocks the guard's view with a mattress. Calculated, coordinated. This isn't rage, it's execution. Prosecutors call it a gang-ordered hit. Ashker claims self-defense. The jury doesn't buy it. And here's where it gets stranger. During the trial, a defense witness, someone there to help Ashker, stabs his own attorney, right there in the courtroom. The conviction comes down hard. Second-degree murder. 21 years to life. 1989. Ashker gets transferred to Pelican Bay State Prison. Not just any unit, the Security Housing Unit, the SHU, solitary confinement, a windowless cell, 23-hour lockdown. They call it housing the worst of the worst. Ashker will spend 25 years there, 25 years in isolation. Prison officials validate him as a high-ranking Aryan Brotherhood leader. Ashker denies it, but the classification sticks. Later, he's moved to Corcoran, and that's where he becomes something more dangerous than a killer. He becomes a shot caller, a top commander. Here's the paradox that should haunt anyone who thinks about prison security. How does a man in total isolation command an army? Ashker doesn't use brute force. He's not Michael Barrett, with a shank and swastika tattoos. Ashker uses something more powerful. Manipulation. Assaults happen at his word. Gang operations continue under his direction. Murders get ordered from a cell with no windows, no phone, no direct contact with anyone, no direct evidence, no witnesses. Perfect deniability. The prison system knows he's doing it. They just can't prove how. Guards intercept messages. They monitor communications. They lock down movements. And still, Ashker's invisible command continues. His reputation grows. Smart, patient, ruthless. He doesn't need to seed his soldiers to control them. He doesn't need to touch a weapon to kill. Todd Monster Ashker becomes the embodiment of everything the Aryan Brotherhood evolved into. Not just violence, strategy, long-term planning, power that transcends physical walls. 25 years in a hole, and he still runs an empire. While Todd Ashker commands from the shadows, someone has to do the actual killing. Someone has to enforce the code with blood. Late 1990s, early 2000s, Corcoran executes. Stabbings in the yard, stabbings in cells, stabbings in dining halls. Anywhere, anytime, without hesitation. He operates under Ashker's command structure. The invisible shot caller gives the order. Barrett makes it happen. This is old-school brutality. No subtlety, no manipulation, just raw, physical intimidation and violence. Barrett upholds the Aryan Brotherhood's racial hierarchy through sheer force. Other inmates see those swastika tattoos and they know, cross the line and you're dead. He's not just killing for ideology anymore. The AB has moved past that. Barrett enforces their business interests, drug distribution territories, protection racket collections, territorial dominance. Someone refuses to pay, Barrett handles it. Someone talks to guards, Barrett handles it. Someone from a rival gang steps into AB territory, Barrett handles it. He's the muscle behind the invisible command. Ashker's brain, Barrett's hands. Together, they represent what the Aryan Brotherhood has become. A blend of organized crime sophistication and prison yard savagery, intelligence and brutality, strategy and violence, invisible orders and very visible bodies. Corcoran's racial wars continue. The AB maintains control. And Michael Irish Barrett? He's the reason why. No one challenges the Aryan Brotherhood at Corcoran, not because they respect the ideology, because they fear men like Barrett. And that fear, that blood-soaked fear, keeps the empire running. For years, the Aryan Brotherhood operates with near impunity. Guards know what's happening. Wardens know. The Department of Corrections knows. But knowing and proving are two different things. Then, 1983 happens, and everything changes. Marion Penitentiary, Illinois. Maximum security federal prison. October 22nd. Two correctional officers, Burl Klutz and Robert Hoffman, are murdered. Stabbed to death by Aryan Brotherhood members. This isn't inmates killing inmates. This is inmates killing guards. 2 guards, same day. It's the first time in federal prison history that 2 officers are murdered in coordinated attacks. The shockwave goes through the entire U.S. prison system. If guards aren't safe at a maximum security facility, then nowhere is safe. The federal government responds with force. Nationwide crackdowns begin. Investigations multiply. Resources pour in. They start building supermax facilities, places specifically designed to contain men like the Aryan Brotherhood leadership. 23-hour lockdown, no human contact, complete isolation. But the AB adapts. They always adapt. The real blow comes 19 years later, 2002. The FBI and federal prosecutors finish a massive investigation. Years of work. Intercepted communications, informant testimony, surveillance. They drop a RICO indictment. Racketeer-Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. The same tool they used to break the mafia. 40 Aryan Brotherhood leaders get indicted. 40. The charges? 32 murders, strangulations, poisonings, stabbings, beatings, a catalog of deaths spanning decades. The evidence is overwhelming. Coded messages decoded, murder contracts traced, money trails followed, witnesses flipped. The trials begin. Federal prosecutors methodically build their case. 2006. The verdicts come down. Barry Mills, guilty of racketeering. Tyler Bingham, guilty of racketeering. The 2 men who built the Federal Commission. The architects of the modern Aryan Brotherhood. Life sentences, no parole. They'll die in federal prison. Other leaders fall too. Convictions pile up. The Federal Commission gets dismantled. It should be over. The leadership is gone. The structure is broken. The empire should collapse, but it doesn't. Because the Aryan Brotherhood isn't just about leadership, it's about a system, a culture, a business model that survives beyond any individual member. New leaders rise, the violence continues, the drug trade adapts, the murders don't stop. Corcoran remains a stronghold. The federal convictions wounded the AB, but they didn't kill it. You can't kill an idea with a prison sentence. You can't stop a movement by locking up its leaders. The federal response was massive. The convictions were real, the punishments were severe, and still, the blood-soaked empire endures. 2013. After 25 years in solitary confinement, Todd Ashker does something nobody sees coming. He allies with his enemies. Not just any enemies. The Black Guerrilla family, the Mexican Mafia, the Nuestra Familia. Every major prison gang in California. The same organizations the Aryan Brotherhood has been at war with for decades. The same gangs they've killed for, died fighting against, and now, they're working together. The target isn't each other anymore. It's the system itself. Specifically, solitary confinement. July 8, 2013. Pelican Bay State Prison. Inmates refuse meals. It starts small, then spreads. Within days, thousands of inmates across California prisons join the hunger strike. Black inmates, white inmates, Hispanic inmates, all unified. Historic enemies, men who would kill each other in the yard, now standing together for a common cause. The demand is simple. End indefinite solitary confinement. End the practice of keeping human beings in windowless cells for years, decades, without meaningful human contact. Ashker becomes one of the lead organizers. The man who spent 25 years orchestrating violence from isolation now orchestrates resistance. The strike lasts 60 days. Some inmates lose 30, 40 pounds. Medical emergencies multiply. The state faces a crisis. It's the largest prison hunger strike in California history, and it's being led by the same men who built their reputations on blood. So what changed? 25 years in a hole does something to a person. Even to someone like Todd "Monster" Ashker. Maybe it's genuine transformation. 25 years to think about every choice, every victim, every consequence. Or maybe it's strategy. Ashker's always been smart. Maybe he sees this as the next evolution. Reform from within. Legitimacy through activism. The truth? Probably both. The hunger strikes lead to legal battles. Lawsuits challenging indefinite solitary confinement. Arguments about cruel and unusual punishment. Constitutional violations. Ashker becomes a plaintiff in federal court. The convicted murderer, the validated gang leader, now fighting for human rights. The irony is staggering. The man who ordered violence from solitary confinement now argues that solitary confinement is inhumane. But here's the question nobody can answer definitively. Is this redemption? Can a man responsible for orchestrating murders, for building a violent empire, for causing decades of suffering, can that man change? Does 25 years in isolation equal justice? Or does it create something worse? Ashker transforms from invisible commander to reform advocate, from shot caller to activist. The monster becomes human again. Or maybe he was human all along, and the system made him a monster. Either way, 2013 marks a shift. Not just for Ashker, but for understanding what prison does to people, what isolation creates, what violence breeds. The alliance between sworn enemies proves something. Even the worst of the worst can find common ground when the suffering becomes unbearable. And that should terrify anyone who thinks the current system works. So where does that leave us? Corcoran State Prison still stands. The Aryan Brotherhood still exists. The empire built on blood hasn't crumbled. Barry Mills died in 2018. Tyler Bingham is still serving life in a federal supermax. The old guard is gone or dying. But new leaders have risen. A new generation of shot callers. Different faces, same structure. The Federal Commission was weakened by the 2006 convictions. But it wasn't destroyed. It adapted. It always adapts. The Aryan Brotherhood's influence stretches far beyond California now. Across state and federal prisons nationwide, into county jails, onto the streets through paroled members. Current estimates put their membership at over 20,000 associates. 20,000. That's not just a gang anymore. That's an organization, a network, a criminal enterprise that spans the entire country. They still control drug distribution in prisons. They still run protection rackets. They still take contracts for murders. The business model hasn't changed. Violence for profit, fear as currency, blood as enforcement. Corcoran remains a stronghold. The gladiator fights have stopped. Too much scrutiny, too many lawsuits. But the territorial control? That hasn't gone anywhere. Todd Ashker's transformation into a reform advocate didn't end the Aryan Brotherhood. Michael Barrett's enforcement didn't stop with his imprisonment. The cycle continues. New inmates get recruited. Young men entering the system, looking for protection, looking for power, looking for identity. The AB offers all three. And the cost? Absolute loyalty. Violence on command. A lifetime commitment that often ends in death. 18% of all prison murders. Still, after everything. After the federal crackdowns, after the RICO convictions, after the reforms, 1% of inmates, still causing nearly 1 in 5 prison murders in America. That statistic should haunt us, because it tells us something fundamental about the system. You can lock men in cages, you can isolate them in solitary, you can monitor their every move, intercept their messages, track their associations.